how are you within your firm? How are you using AI? And also, what role do you see AI playing? And I know it's very new to all of us, and so we're still trying to figure that out. But as of right now, what's the role that you see AI playing? So again, how are you using it, and what's the role that you see it playing?
Well, I can answer that if you're looking for someone to speak up first. First of all, we tried using um, a base in India to do a lot of the financial analysis for roadshows and for client presentations. And that worked out pretty well for a while. And now we're into the age of AI. So we've stopped using our Indian resources and we are using Rogo right now as doing a lot of work for us. And we found that to be really quite good. There
What's
is
Rogo, Richard?
it's a financial modeling software
Okay.
using
It's
uh,
strictly for investment banking. Sorry to jump in,
yeah,
Richard, but
yeah.
we use it at our firm as well.
You
Okay.
use it as well. I found it to be very satisfactory, but obviously there's no substitute for human input, particularly on the making contact with potential investors or buyers. It doesn't certainly help in that regard, but it does put a lot of stuff together that was done manually before. So that's sort of phase one of how we're looking at AI, how we've looked at it.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah.
I don't mind jumping in. Or Michael, sorry, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt
Oh,
you.
no, I mean, it's probably more the same. Not as sophisticated in terms of using IB specific software, but at Keel Point, kind of a traditionally a family office, private client, and institutional investment platform, and then a partner of I have started a kind of boutique investment banking platform serving the lower middle market. And with a lean team, we've really leveraged enterprise Claude, and I've spent a ton of time building skill and writing Python inside of Claude to, essentially like make sure everything's branded correctly. There's some native tools inside of Claude in terms of like financial analysis and things like that. So we've been kind of, I would say, like bit by bit building up a platform. To Richard's point, I'm still building buyer lists pretty manually and still reaching out pretty manually, but I can get about 85 to 90% of the way there on the SIP through using Claude Enterprise, and then about the same 85 or 90% of the way there on the model. And then the plugins, especially in Excel and PowerPoint, to be able to operate with AI inside of Microsoft products has been really, really helpful. Just kind of plain language, this is what I want, and then watch that output happen.
Yeah. Yeah, if I can jump in, right, just to piggyback on that. As a firm, we use Rogo, plus we use the Claude Enterprise. One of the just flag issues we came across with compliance is using the models in Claude or anything else with regards to Series 24 and confidentiality. So Rogo has been the preferred route on that side, unless you can blank it out and as you use the models. We just got hammered on that pretty strictly with our compliance side, saying you cannot do that. So just flag that.
Can I ask a question about that? So we went through like firm-wide, obviously we've got family office and institutional investments happening apart from the banking platform. We spent a ton of time like looking into like what the kind of black box of enterprise level Claude actually is and does. We got comfortable with it. I wasn't obviously on the compliance team. I'm curious if you felt like there was a large amount of due diligence there that led to a no or a question mark or not.
I don't think it's large as far as that goes. We use Brighthorn Securities as our third party, and they're the ones who told us you cannot do that, or don't, at least, or be very, very cautious. As long as it's a closed loop, you're better. But if you're using chat or anything, it becomes a little bit more, it's kind of hairy, I guess I would say.
And George, I'm sorry, what did you get the no on?
Using chat,
Yeah.
like Claude Chat or anything to put any financial models or anything that has customer or client information, whether it's a SIP or anything kind of going into that, just be very cautious.
Enterprise license? Sorry, is that under your enterprise license?
Correct. Even with that, and the reason from what we understood, is you sign an NDA with the client and you're technically sharing the client information with this third party. This just sounds like lawyer talk to me.
Yeah.
If we're being completely honest, but this just wanted to flag it out there. But I'll tell you what we are using the AI for, and I spent weeks with Claude on code and trying to build out lists. And really that's the biggest use of my time, is trying to take Claude or take Rogo and try and build out prospect lists. Buyer lists are pretty easy, but prospect is a little bit tougher, just the noise out there. And I ended up spending 2-3 weeks getting a $17,000 unit list and had to parse it down to 2,000 or so, but a lot of manual labor. So I think, Richard, you'd mentioned you cannot replace a person yet. That is 100% true, but it does at least give you the template you can start with and start to parse it down from there.
I've got a quick cautionary tale. I was working on a deal a couple of years ago. Maybe all this stuff is better now. It was a defense deal. It was a missile component. So we're putting the book together, and like a lot of these technical things are, it wasn't quite a word salad, but it was, if you didn't have a PhD, it wasn't clear that you'd understand what this component was for and what it did. So I asked the junior staff, see if they could clean this up, maybe some little simple diagrams so someone without a technical background could understand why the company was worth what we said it was worth and why people would buy it. And so they did what junior staff do. They used an AI tool to kind of improve the language. And so, a day or two later, I looked at the book. The book looked good. They did exactly what I asked. And so we were all surprised when the FBI showed up and wanted to know why we had downloaded top secret missile component specifications and what we had done with them. So we got a quick lesson. Nothing in the internet ever goes away. So the fact that you search for something, the fact that you're asking for a list or specs, or you're writing a sim or a teaser or a guide, it's still in the cloud someplace. And so other people get to look for it. We found out the source for all of this was, I think, some guys at Rockwell were working on the widget, and they had loaded some stuff in to improve the technical performance. They'd asked their version of Claude, can you improve these parameters? That's what was in there. That was the actual violation. But the damn violation ended up in my sim, which was very, very interesting. So what I got out of that, because we had a meeting with lawyers and compliance people and tech people, none of this stuff ever goes away. The fact that you've asked for it is there. All of the data that's generated is there. The fact that you ask is there. Every question that was answered that you've rejected or refined is all there. So, and this is probably why your broker dealer may not like it. It's all there, proprietary or not, top secret or not. It's all still there, and it is searchable and findable. And I don't know exactly a way to work around that. Several of these webinars I've been on, everybody says AI is going to replace all of the junior staff. We won't need analysts or associates. We may not even need vice presidents. We have a great idea. We tell our AI assistant to go, generate a list of 100 buyers for XYZ Corp, and it'll just magically appear together with a teaser and the sim and all the support. I don't know that that's ever really going to happen because of stuff like this.
Yeah. We'll touch on the kind of the human resources part of this, in a few minutes. Thanks for that input. And, I think in terms of security, there's definitely agreements that can be set up, including with Claude. And so I'm not convinced that we should not be using Claude Enterprise. I'll just leave it at that. I think each of us obviously owns kind of researching that further and seeing what agreements we can and should have in place. Let's just pivot to the next question, if it's all right with all of you. So, are you seeing actual measurable lift from using AI? And if so, how's that playing out? Are you seeing measurable lift from AI?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say we are for sure. Like I mentioned earlier, super lean team. The first couple deals we did, it was just a lot of work, and good work. Since we've been able to leverage Enterprise Claude and really tighten that up, it dramatically narrows for us, we don't have a team of analysts. So we were doing that work and kind of MD level work at the same time. We were able to, a lot of that basic blocking and tackling, formatting, all that kind of stuff. We may not have to hire, we thought we were going to have to hire at the end of this year. We may not have to, depending on deal flow. So I would say it's measurable to us. And our goal is have something that resembles an FTE built out, by the end of the year.
So it sounds like it saved time, it saved hours of effort, potentially to the point of a full-time employee.
It's measurable for us, but not as much as a full-time employee. It's, the most tedious work, which is, clients' data rooms as they're coming together and reviewing what's there and what's absent. It's probably saves hours in that project, but we don't do that project every day of the week. But that I think is our single biggest time saving from it is the internal diagnostics. Getting an internal view of messy financials from a client where someone sent us, the years separated into different files, takes minutes to put the different files in and have compiled financials and all the ratios run. But again, we don't do that work all that often. So great big lift in job satisfaction.
Yeah, I think it gives you
time.
Yeah, I think it gives you just a running start on a lot, at least from our end as well. It still has a lot of errors. So from our side, you just gotta have that human element to review it still. But it does, I'd also argue, depends how detailed you are. I think, Michael, you had talked about coding and so on. So if you are able and comfortable building agents and really building out that process, I think it could be even more useful. I stop at using Claude Code enough, but copying and pasting images across chats and codes. But those folks that really can build on it beyond it can probably bring more value. And there's probably a service out there that can either teach you besides Twitter or somewhere to help you become more efficient. So that's my perspective on it.
Thanks so much. And I saw that a couple of people have joined just in the past couple of minutes. The question that we're talking through right now is, are you actually seeing measurable lift from using AI?
So I'll just jump in there.
Michael Stanley, you were mentioning like you guys are using Claude, but you're building your own tool within it. So can you expand on that? Like what skills you need to do that? What exactly are you doing, if you don't mind?
Yeah. So it kind of came out of the wealth management side of the business. Some guys over there are pretty sharp on this type of stuff, and we're building kind of like Excel audit tools and some tools to make the outputs a lot more accurate, for lack of a better word, and to have the logic and the formula traced through spreadsheets so that you can easily look at it and understand what's happening. I kind of piggybacked on that. There's a research function inside of Claude where essentially you say research X, and it'll spit out a 10-page document that has scoured the internet and tells you all of the best practices for creating X, whether it's a banking model, a SIP, whatever it is. So then you take that, feed it back into Claude and say, use this methodology to help me create a skill to do this routinely inside of Claude. So then, then it brings you back like a, 15,000 character prompt essentially that you can then store inside of Claude. So every time I hit /model, it goes and reads that prompt and does it. Now, the thing about Claude that I'm learning is like the I portion of artificial intelligence is that gives Claude some leeway to do things slightly differently every time it reads that prompt. So the thing that was happening to me was I was getting a decent product every time, but it was always slightly different. That I didn't like. And so that's when I shifted over to Claude Code. So there are portions, and you can have Claude tell you which portions they are, but there are portions that give it some latitude to make decisions. I wanted to take that out. And so then I had it write code to tell it, do it exactly this way every time. So now when I upload, the financials, one of the things I did was like, I made it ask me for a deal brief before I do anything. And so there are 25, 30 questions that I have to answer about this company before it does anything. And so after I do that, upload the financials, then I'll basically pull the code from a folder and drop it in, and then it runs it succinctly. The last piece of that I did to save myself time was I wrote a branding skill. So I took the firm brand book, I stuck it in there, and I was like, hey, when we do a sim, I want joint branding, predominantly the company's colors with some Keel Point stuff in the bottom right. If it's a teaser, it's going to be all Keel Point, totally anonymous, and kind of again went through the same process with it about doing the research report, building the prompt, loading that into Claude. And now I've developed something that I would say is super useful for me. I'm still doing a lot of tweaking on the model. As y'all know, like that's the piece. If you get that wrong, it's problematic. So what I was getting from Claude was so in depth and so large that it was almost impossible to review the entire thing. And so I'm in the process of kind of chipping that down to something that is, solid that I can build on that's understandable.
Super helpful. So you started in like co-work, and then you said I want something that's has less discretion. So then you went over to you built a code and
Yeah, and I actually built the code in co-work. So
okay.
we're not our IT guy and I have become good friends over the past couple months. But he's like, hey man, I can't release code to everybody because God knows what'll happen. So I actually had the Python code written in co-work. And then the research thing, if you're in the chat, or sorry, I can't remember I'll have to look through and find it, but basically inside of the app, you can select the research function to kind of start on the path of what best practices are for any given product.
It's in the skills side, right? If I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
if you just do the
Yes.
backslash skills, add the skill or plugins as well.
Mhm.
It does a pretty good job.
This is amazing. What I'll do is I will share out an attendee list after this meeting, and then you could connect with one another on some of these kind of deeper topics. Sounds like Michael has the technical skills that we all wish we had. So,
No, it's all on survival.
Jordan, I think you had a question or a comment.
No, I was just going to make a comment. Look, we usually carry and we're trying to use it everywhere. And I feel like no matter how many classes I take that are AI in general, and how many classes I take that are AI specific, just for Claude or just for Chat GPT, I feel like I'm always learning, and every time I feel like I'm getting to second grade instead of first grade, I'm back at kindergarten because everything's happening so fast, right? So we're trying to use it in every aspect. We've already gone from hiring 2 analysts to hiring one analyst, so about 120 grand a year savings. We're trying to pump that back into the AI space, and learning as we go. So one thing is we're fortunate. We're in Arizona. We got ASU in our backyard, and ASU has programs in artificial intelligence and degrees that they're offering, and just like they were cutting edge for entrepreneurial programs. And so instead of having 2 to 3 interns that were all, first year, second year business finance students, we've been getting 2 to 3 of them and 2 to 3 computer IT AI kids. And I will tell you, they are like gold. So Michael, I applaud you for doing what you're doing. And I feel like the old guy and the brain's concrete and it's not a sponge anymore. But these kids come in and the value they add is incredible. And so for our presentations, for our buyer lists, for financial modeling, for everything, they're taking the business finance kids work product and making it 100 times better. And that's factoring into every aspect of our business. And so now, even on the business development side, I've been using it. That's a lot of my role, and I've been doing it. And now our pipeline is so robust that I'm getting rid of one analyst and probably hiring 2 more VPs, because you still need the human touch on finalizing the model and talking to the client and dealing with the prospective buyers. So just like, for whatever it's worth, just like I'm learning about Rogo and I didn't even know that existed, so shame on me. But those get those AI first, second, third year college students, pull them in as interns. They are a gold mine. So that's all I wanted to add.
That's super helpful, Jordan. They're using the computer sciences. Is that their category that you're pulling from?
They're AI. They're business AI.
Business AI kids.
Even better than computers. So if you just search like ASU, and our interns, especially in the summer, come from all over the country, and we let them work for us remotely during fall semester, spring semester. But just search for ASU AI business programs, and you can get on the chat board. I'm happy to help you get on their chat board internally.
I just connected with you on LinkedIn, so
all right,
I'll reach out for you.
But I'm telling you, these guys are so much. It doesn't matter what I think I'm learning and how many weekend hours I spend on it. These kids come in and just blow it all away.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, Jordan, you mentioned you're not going to hire an analyst. You probably will hire another VP or 2. I think Michael said at the start of this portion, he's saved close to a full-time employee worth of time. So that's definitely, I think, a theme that's jumping out here is just very significant time savings from AI. Do any of you feel like AI is actually adding steps to your work, or adding sort of net adding to your workload rather than improving it?
For some of us who are perhaps a bit more seasoned and didn't grow up fully immersed in the tech world, where look, I can remember doing deals before the internet, right? Before email had existed. So for me, I think it's taking me extra time to learn AI, to learn the tools, and I'm way behind some of these other guys. So it right now it takes me more time to do stuff because I'm doing it several times and looking at the result and checking it and all of that. What I have noticed is my output is better. Right. So it's I'm getting a better product. I read every line. I look at everything and I think about what it says and how it says it and how it looks on the page and all that stuff. Just like I was training a first year analyst. When you bring somebody into the business, an actual human person, it takes a while before they're really valuable because there's a lot they don't know. And so you actually spend more time with them. I mean, if I'm building a model, if I've got a guy with an accounting degree who's never been in the business, I can build a model before he can because I know what I'm doing. I know where to look and I kind of know how it's supposed to come out. And so I'm probably at that low part of the AI curve where it's taking me more time to do stuff, but the output is better and it's going faster. I mean, I don't have the FTEs, probably the deal flow that some of you guys do. So it's a slower process, but it's getting better. And unlike the 24-year-old, AI doesn't take vacations. AI will work on a weekend. I can put some stuff in before I go to bed at night. When I wake up in the morning, it's 90% done, and that's pretty good for me, because I'm kind of at the point where my time is more important than almost anything else. So I think I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, even though it's taken me probably longer to get there.
Kendall brings up a really good point, and it's something that I'm starting to get a little bit better at, is that there are things that it does very, very well that I'm learning I don't really have to spend a ton of time checking that thing. And there are other things it doesn't do very well, and I spend a lot of time checking that thing. And I do think,
What are some of those things that you're referring to?
I think like basic math, if I'm just kind of running it and having it like mapping, for instance, I get a QuickBooks Excel pull of a P&L, and there's no organization, zero cost of goods sold, everything's in OpEx, that kind of stuff. It does a pretty good job of initial mapping. I always go back and I like it, a little bit different at times. But generally on the first swipe, it does a good job at that. It is generally bad at like understanding what outputs to place that are usable. So, if I ask it to do a summary tab on a model, at least initially before I start building some of these tools, like God knows what it's going to put on that summary page, and so things like that. I feel like you get faster as you start to realize, and I'm not good at it. I mean, I'm still learning this, but you can start saving time when you learn what it's good at and what it's bad at.
Yeah, I get AI hallucinations sometime. I mean, I was working on a teaser for a company, 40 million in sales. First draft of the AI generated teaser said this is the dominant industrial company in North America. Which, I mean, it's not a dominant company in anything. It's a pretty good company in a tiny space, right? So some of those things just go off. And I've for Sims, I'll say add pictures, and it'll throw in pictures of stuff that has nothing to do with my client, pictures of a U.S. steel plant in Pittsburgh. Yeah, okay, we're making pressure treated lumber. That isn't me. So there's some of that. And the fact that there's that makes me nervous as hell, as, what are my ratios from 2018? Did it do that right? That's why it takes me longer probably to do this now. But it's getting better every time, and it's getting faster every time. And that's part of the training, I guess.
Ernie, I'll shut up after this, but one thing, Kendall, I had a similar issue, and I put this instruction for Claude. I think I saw it on the internet, but the little instruction is, you're committed to truth and accuracy above everything else, including being helpful. A wrong answer delivered confidently is worse than no answer. Follow these 7 rules in every response. Then I've got rules for uncertainty, sources, statistics, and that's actually made a pretty big difference. It has started flagging itself when it makes deductions.
That's interesting. No, I'd be curious to actually see that list. Yeah, if you can send it my way, Michael, that would be great.
Do you want me to just put it in the chat?
Yeah, you can put it in the chat, and if you could email it afterwards, that would be good too. Let's pivot. Jump over to human resources, and we've touched a little bit on this, but how is AI influencing your thinking around human resources? It sounds like it's saved a lot of time. I mean, but even in not just kind of not hiring, but maybe the way it's influenced roles. Maybe an analyst you see, or an associate, maybe they have a different role than they would have 2 years ago, or so both in terms of your head count, but also in terms of the roles that each of the team member plays. How is AI influencing that? And let's for those of us that have shared comments already, let's leave some time for other people to contribute to the discussion as well.
Hey, my name's Tom Nelson. I'm an attorney. We've got about a 40-person boutique and corporate transactional work. So we've got a lot of issues on the legal side as far as how we use Claude. And part of our issue that we've been spending a lot of time on is all the technology that we normally use, NetDocs for document control, and Box to store client files, and Practical Law and Westlaw that we use for research. And all those products are rolling out, and even other ones like even our CompareRight program, they're all rolling out their own AI products. And so part of our issue is dealing with all the different products that are being rolled out literally every week, and trying to make sure that we are, connected to the best way we can. And by the way, they all want to increase the cost for using those products to the extent that they now have MCP connectors to Claude to get to that tier. So that's been one issue that we're dealing with. But in terms of headcount and personnel, I think it definitely impacts us on the low end, like it sounds like it all does for you guys as well. There's a lot of things that come up on a daily basis that you would normally say, hey, a young associate, go check on this and this, which now we can basically, like, for instance, I can have it go look at my client's files on Box and determine, when the restricted purchase agreement was signed, who signed it, and how many shares it was and what the vesting provision was, which would normally we'd have to go ask somebody to do. So there's a whole lot of that low level admin type stuff that instead of sending an email to an associate, you're just clicking in the Claude and getting that taken care of. So it's definitely impacts us on hiring at the young.
So Tom, seeing that type of an impact, what are your admins now doing, or the analysts now doing? I mean, how are you handling that?
Yeah, so our firm's a little different in the sense that because we're a boutique, we typically only hire people that have had a few years at a big firm anyway. So, but had we been hiring first years, I think we probably would have stopped that process, to be honest, just because it's so much more efficient to bring in somebody that knows what they're doing. Now that you can add this layer of productivity with AI as well, it makes a difference. So the people we do have, we're giving them all the tools to be as productive as possible, like we always do. But now it's the AI component.
Got it.
Yeah, and I'll just add on that. So my group, so we're a boutique, 25 bankers. I lead our originations department. So there will be 4 of us. We typically have an intern in the summer, and it just so happens this summer that we're going to be short on that intern's time. But before even Jordan started mentioning using more kind of, I'd say, tech-oriented professionals versus somebody that's coming out of a finance program, I think what we would traditionally ask of those interns is just so automated at this point using the tools. And we're using Claude Enterprise. We demoed Rogo probably 2 years ago, and it wasn't where we wanted from an execution side of the house. And then now we're back in a Rogo demo. But nonetheless, I think the intern that at least sits within my group that position is definitely going to change. It's going to be more oriented around, technical data integrity and helping us kind of really manage the tech stack versus the traditional kind of finance person. At least that's where my head's at, and kind of hearing Jordan really confirms kind of that potential strategy change. So
this may be a little bit off topic. This is Richard, but because the issues are so prevalent, we've been getting our really, really bright young AI guys to run seminars for our constituencies, namely bankers or CPAs or RIAs or lawyers who come to our company, and we'll usually limit it to 50 people to teach them about what we know about AI. So that's created kind of a new position within the field. It might have been budgeted as an analyst before, but now it becomes kind of a marketing arm of the company to teach those who are in the field, again, bankers and CPAs and lawyers and others, about AI and how to use it. Found that has been extremely helpful, and clearly increases the number of referrals we get from those constituents.
Interesting. So yeah, we're leaning more technical for the lower level people. We're using them to share some of those technical skills. And then like Tom mentioned, they're using AI to be more efficient at what they're doing. I think we may, I don't know, Jay, if we have gotten any feedback through the chat, if there's any questions or comments there. If not, no problem. We'll go to the next.
They've been doing great.
Okay,
Really.
perfect. Well, we're, starting to run out of time here. I think for this last portion, we'll open it up. Maybe there's a topic we have not covered and we kind of wish we did, or maybe there's other questions out there that people have that, we didn't cover. So we'll kind of have this sort of an open part of the discussion. If anyone has any questions or any feedback, comments, just sort of on any part of this discussion.
I'm kind of the resident Luddite here, but I'm glad to meet everybody and be part of it. Our firm is not, how do we put this eloquently, not exactly coming up the curve technology wise, and so, but I'm doing my best to kind of learn what I can learn. And I was on the phone yesterday with somebody down in Ecuador, and he was telling me that he was kind of a AI denialist, which I'll admit I probably was in the beginning, but he took some tutorial. I guess Claude puts out a tutorial that's like 8 hours total in segments, but he forgot to tell me, and then I forgot to write him back to get the link. Does this sound familiar to anybody? And if so, could you share the link?
I have not heard of that type of tutorial, but if anyone has, yeah, feel free to share that in the chat. Or
you can Google rogo.ai.com, and I think the tutorial, there is a link there to it. I haven't used it for quite a while, but that may be one way to get there.
Okay, great.
And there's a lot of stuff on the website, both in terms of write-ups and videos and stuff. I don't think I've seen the 8-hour session thing, but
yeah, Clay, you can just create a free Claude account,
Okay.
and then they'll have the tutorials built into them, just like Gemini and Grok and everything else, which I recommend doing, even though they're specific to their services. And then you go to Google and you can just get general AI classes, and you could do all of this for free. And like I said, every time you feel like you're getting a little better, you realize you're still in kindergarten. So good luck with it.
I don't think I ever got out of kindergarten in life, but no, that's great. And then the other question I had, because my brother-in-law is a fireman, and he created a business using Claude, an app, because he's also a fire investigator on the side. And I was talking to him at the family's pool a couple weeks ago, and I said, this is awesome, but like, who owns this, right? And so is FINRA or the SEC opining at all on kind of any kind of standard for using AI? That's who owns it is a whole nother conversation, but it's so amazing to me. But at the end of the day, where do the IP rights go, right? I think this is sort of a question that I didn't quite say correctly, but is anybody seeing any guidance, from FINRA or from SEC?
From FINRA on our end, it's from compliance, third-party compliance, the securities groups that I think we talked about it earlier. Up to debate. Some are more conservative than others. Depends how much of a lawyer you want you want to be.
It's funny because the last ghost hunt that FINRA was on with our firm was texting.
That's a big one.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking, with all this open architecture, where are we now, right?
Clay, I don't know if this is relevant at all, but and it's not FINRA, but I have a friend in town who's a federal judge, and he had an attorney present a brief to him that referenced previous case law, but the quotes were totally fake. And he ended up, I mean, the guy's about to get disbarred, but it got written up in the Wall Street Journal. Basically, his position, this judge's position, was that like you're totally at your discretion to use AI to the max extent possible, but you're also responsible for the fidelity of the information that you put across.
Okay.
Interesting, very interesting.
Wild
Finn,
West.
don't mean to put you on the spot too much here, but I think you might be the associate, one of the only associates in the room. Just kind of from your perspective, I think you're at an investment bank in Southern California. From your perspective, what any thoughts, or how are you using AI, or kind of what's your take on this?
It's very interesting because I know when I started in investment banking, the AI tools were not nearly advanced enough to actually be helpful. And very quickly, we've seen tools advance the stage where it makes it more difficult to learn. New analysts that we're bringing on can become very good at using AI tools, but actually teaching them some of the financial concepts is more difficult when you always have this kind of crutch. So it's like building out a target list. I think it's so important to learn doing by hand. Same thing with modeling, same thing with building a deck. So I think that's a very important dynamic in getting
So
that
even
next generation caught up.
So not learning, I mean, not sort of, so even the younger kind of group should be careful to not, should continue to develop kind of the traditional skills and not let kind of new technology just completely take that over.
I'd say the problem is people can tell what good AI output is. And so if I give my new analyst a task and say, hey, build this target list, and they can put it through AI and they can stress test it with AI and they can say, okay, like I know that this is the best result that AI can put out. They don't have the background of knowing, oh, here's what the objective is. And it's the same thing. I think the biggest issue I run into using AI or watching other people use AI is like financial modeling. Where like if you ask an AI tool, and we've spent the past like 16 months kind of demoing everything out there. Right now, I'll say I think the two best tools for modeling are Claude and Rogo, just generally. And I think that the key to that is the integration features. We use like Granola for note taking. We use like Gmail for our inbox and outbox. When you sync these up, you can build out a model. I had something about a month ago where I like built my model. I was about to send it off as a final version. And I asked Claude and Rogo both. I was like, hey, just audit this. Like, no further instructions. Didn't try to get too fancy with it. And Claude flagged something. It said, hey, we have a transcript from your Granola note taker from like 2 months ago. You were on the phone with the CEO, and he mentioned that they were anticipating a bump in rent in August of next year. That's not in the model. And it's like you can use these AI tools as basically just like an analyst with like perfect photographic memory that's like lives in the data room and knows exactly everything you should be remembering. That it can just flag more quickly. But my original point is that the modeling is very difficult because if you ask an AI tool, hey, give me a model, they'll give you something. And everything will look like it's tying out, but there's some tasks that I think genuinely, I think Michael was saying this earlier, are important enough that it needs the human touch.
Right.
Modeling is one. I think like building the outline of a deck is another. You can use AI to maybe fill out the details, but like the real value lifts. It's like you can always get an output. The question is like what outputs are actually worth asking of AI.
And that's an excellent point. And that's, that is a question here for each of us is what is the right balance between, the human in the loop and using the technology, like to what extent do you use it? Now, obviously, Michael just gave us a strong example of, quotes that were completely made up. And now this, lawyer is potentially being disbarred because of that. And so, and Frank, I think you have mentioned to me, you've, at least recently, you've kind of leaned into, rather than having AI create a first draft and then you review it, you created a first draft of, I don't know if it was a proposal or an LOI, and then had AI kind of review that, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, it's a great copy editor. That's certainly one of the use cases, and in some cases, rather than circulating things around the firm for just comments, do we say this in a way that someone's going to understand it, to get it, to get thorough copy editing? That's no more expertise from AI than grammar and writing style, but that's definitely one of the productivity improvements.
Yeah, and I think that also just speaks to this whole point about there is a balance that each of us needs to find, depending on, I guess, our own judgment and circumstances. Well, I think just sort of wrapping up here, I think we'll take one more question, one more comment, and then we'll start to close out. Is there anything else that someone wanted to ask or to share before we started closing out?
This is Richard. I'd be interested in how people are using AI to find investors for sell side situations.
The best, I use the kind of the old ways. If you're looking at like Zoom Info, it says enter a sample company. Same concept using Claude again in this way. Here's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for private equity groups in the lower middle market that have had an investment in automotive within this kind of EBITDA range or volume range. And then it spits out a list, and then from there, just continue to refine it. That's been my best way. Obviously, if you're looking for strategics, it's a little bit different. Just look through a habit search, do the research function. The way Michael had mentioned, there's a lot you can do when you tab research and find all the consolidators, all the press releases of anybody in that industry that has done some type of acquisition or capital raise or anything that's in there, and build a list that way. That's been my experience.
Georgina, do you use the PitchBook plugin to Claude at all?
No, we have not. We've not here at my firm. PitchBook, good and bad.
Right.
So just kind of using that. A lot of other times we just have Google alerts for some of the things that is going on in the specific industry. We're not generalists, so it's pretty easy to refine it. But that's another way to just kind of feed all that into your Claude and keep refining that list. And so recurring tasks, have it scrape everything every week, right? So the Claude can do that. So every time there's a new announcement, anything, have it do a search, update your file. It's in Cowork, so it updates the file automatically. It's really plug and play at that point.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
What do you find the difference is mostly between the enterprise Claude and the $20 a month Claude? Is it? Well,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
I see Michael.
Dramatic.
Dramatic.
Yeah.
Well, hey, look, I think we are running out of time. I'm extremely grateful for each of your attendance and for each of your contribution. Thanks again so much for joining. Very much appreciate your contribution, and hope you have a great weekend.